Hey everyone, I'm Ryan, you're watching 60 Cycle Hum, and if you've been watching this channel, you might have recently witnessed me breaking a string in a pedal demo on my Yamaha Revstar here, and while that's not a very exciting premise for a video, what is exciting is that I'm using this as an opportunity to finally install this Dusenberg Les Trem on this guitar, which is something I've been wanting to do since day one with this guitar, put a wiggle stick on it, and I've never installed one of these Les Trems on anything either. So I'm excited to check that out. Also, I have this roller bridge here that I think I might want to try on this guitar. I'm not always a big believer in roller bridges, but this does look pretty attractive and it comes highly recommended. So if it fits, I think I'm going to give this a shot to see how it works out paired with that Les Trem. So let's get started. I'm going to take all the strings off, obviously, and then give it a nice polish, get some of this grit off the pickups. I've been playing this guitar. I love this guitar, by the way. It's easily the best double humbucker guitar that I own. Steve agrees with me. He says the same thing when he comes over and picks up this guitar and plays other guitars that I have. He's like, that Revstar, it's excellent. So anyways, I could sit here and wax poetic about this guitar, but let's get down to business and start taking things off and putting them back on. Well, I've got all the strings off, I might as well do a little clean and rehydrate on the fretboard. It's not dry, but I don't think it'll hurt anything. For me to give it a little bit of love, I've got my D'Addario cleaning and maintenance kit here that I'm a big fan of. That actually looks a lot better. Who would have thunk it? Are the existing bridge posts going to be compatible with this roller bridge? Do I need the new bridge posts? Not compatible. So I do need the new bridge posts. Now, if the screws themselves aren't compatible with this screw size, I'm just going to call it quits on this roller bridge and not fuss with changing out the thimbles. I don't want to get that deep into surgery on this guitar. I'll save this bridge for some other project. Nope. No, not gonna work. These are set into the body. I guess technically this could sit on top of it, but I have no idea if that thimble has the same hole size here, and I really don't want to mangle this guitar in an unnecessary way right now, especially without even knowing if I'm gonna like this trim. I might not like it, so I'm not gonna risk it and do major surgery here. And honestly, this is a guitar that I don't want to screw up with my really rough hack job sorts of mods. If I was going to change in new thimbles for a different bridge, I think I'd take this to a tech. I'm not going to take a drill to this, knowing my own personal history with mistakes and fumbles with power tools and my little mistakes that I've made with guitars over the years. I know what my limits are. I'm assuming I shouldn't need to read the manual. It should be pretty straightforward, right? I guess I'll consult it if I run into any issues. We've got 4 bolts here, which means they're anticipating that I've got one of 2 different sizes. The tremolo should not touch the guitar surface. If so, because the screw collars are not high enough or because the top is extremely curved, simply put one or both of the washers between the tremolo and the screw collar. Well, these are sunk down into the body a little bit, so I am assuming I'm going to need the washers. This project's going by really fast. This is going to be a short video, isn't it? There are 2 tightening screws for the arm. Aha, there we go. Do I want a long arm or a shorter arm? I kind of feel like a shorter arm is probably the way to go with this one. I can always adjust it later. Pretty clever design. You can set the angle and the length of the trim arm so easily. I guess the only thing left to do is to string it up. I've got a set of 9s here from Stringjoy. I think I should look up what these guitars came strung with stock, because I've had the stock strings on there and I like the weight that they were. 10s! I've got 9s and I've got 11s. I don't have 10s. I think I'm going to go with the 9s. I've been enjoying the lighter, more fluttery feel of lighter strings lately, especially on guitars that have hot pickups. On, you know, my offsets, my surf guitars and stuff like that, of course I'm going to use 11s. But yeah, I think I'm going to put 9s on this. That should be fun. Maybe sometime in the future I'll get myself some 10s and put them on this guitar to have it closer to factory condition. Try not to slice my hand open here. I'll open up these Stringjoys. I always like to start with my heavier strings. I don't think there's any reason for that. It's just what I always do when I restring my guitars. So how do these connect? Oh, that's super simple. It just pops right in. Well, there we go. All strung up. How does it look? I don't think I've seen any Revstars with doozy trims on them yet. So this might be the first time you've seen one too. What do you think of that visually? Do you think it works? I think I might want to extend the arm out to get that bend out farther as like an ergonomics thing, but it looks pretty decent. I think the lines of it go well against the Revstar, I suppose. Let's make that adjustment real quick. I want to see how that looks. It's definitely longer. It's got quite a ways there. It's almost like Jazzmaster length. It actually might be longer. Yeah, it might be a little bit longer than how a Jazzmaster arm sticks out. Usually the Jazzmaster arm kind of meets the middle of the neck pickup. And if I push this down, it would meet kind of towards the top end of that neck pickup. All right, here we go. No pinging or tinging yet. The stock bridge has a nice little flex on its posts. I am out of tune though now. It might just be because it's new strings. It might need a stretch, or I might find out that there's just not tuning stability or enough tuning stability with the Dusenberg paired with the standard Tunematic style bridge. There we go. It feels like the strings have settled in. Does the arm drop or did I push it down? I don't remember. Oh, past there, it feels like it wants to drop a little bit. Not a lot though. It feels like it should stay put, but it gets a little looser down there. Sounds like it might be a tiny bit out now. But so far, I'm feeling pretty impressed. Yeah, it really just needed minor adjustments to the tuning, and that honestly might be because the strings are still brand new and need to stretch and break in a little bit. So far, I'm really impressed. It has a little bit of a knocky feel, but you get that with Bigsby's sometimes. I mean, I'm used to like Jazzmaster trims, which when set up right, can just feel like liquid smooth. But this has that more like Bigsby kind of rattle to the arm. But the action itself is nice and smooth and loose and fluttery. Has a really wide range, which I like. Like comparing it to a Bigsby, Bigsby's have a really shallow range on them, and this has a nice wide range, which is my personal preference. A lot of the tuning stability that I'm going to find on this guitar is probably because of the way the guitar is made. The nut is cut really nicely, so the strings are not binding on the nut. If you're going to add a trim to a guitar, you might need to do things to lube and address burrs and things like that in the nut. The bridge itself seems to be handling the trim very nicely. What you want is for the strings to actually bind on your bridge. In this case, you don't want them to slide. And one of the reasons why Jazzmasters and offsets have a lot of tuning stability with trim use is because their bridges actually rock on posts back and forth on metal thimbles on little needle like type screws that just float the bridge so that the whole thing can rock back and forth and the strings are not sliding over the actual saddles. You can get similar stability with a tune-o-matic if the screws that the bridge are floating on have a nice bit of flex to them. And it looks like that's what's going on here. There's plenty of flex on those screws. So the strings themselves are not sliding over the saddle. The whole bridge itself is rocking, which is really ideal. But who's to say if that will happen every single time? With tune-o-matics, it is always a possibility that one of the strings could slip and jump a little bit during trim use, in which case you would go out of tune on one of your strings, and then you'd have to correct it. But so far, so good. What do you guys think so far? Let's try some like higher gain sounds here. I've been doing the surfy stuff. almost how freaky, how easily that presses against the body. I can tell it's pulled that little bit out of tune doing that. I can tell that's too far for it. It's gone out of tune doing that just now. Not too bad, but yeah. I'm gonna have to get used to its range. It is its own experience as far as a trem goes. It feels like an in-between. A hybrid in between the feel of a Jazzmaster and a Bigsby, if that makes any sense. If you're looking for like Floyd Rose sorts of feels or even Strat sorts of feels from a trem, this is not it. That's not it. But if somewhere between a Bigsby and a Jazzmaster sounds interesting to you, this might be a really good option. With those heavy dives, I could tell I was going to get myself into trouble, but with a little like fluttery thing. Yeah, I think it's going to be just fine for the light fluttery work. That high E and I wanted to get it. Hearing a little bit of a ping here. But that's with a pretty extreme dive. Extreme diving, that is not a bad return on the tuning. It's not perfect, but know I'm playing like wacky nonsense stuff here, but I'm just testing it out and getting used to the feel of this thing. I mean, that's passable. In a live mix, I wouldn't like stop mid-song and fix that little bit of a tuning hiccup. That's just analog chorus, you know? So yeah, what do you guys think? Was this a smart addition to the Revstar? Do you think it looks good? Do you think it looks hideous? You can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You're entitled to your opinions. I'm excited to get to know this thing. By the time I do the next string change on this guitar, I'll decide whether or not it's going to be a permanent part of this guitar. And then maybe if I need to, I'll think about other bridge options and things like that. But right off the bat, I'm feeling pretty positive about it. I think it's a fun addition to this guitar. And the fact that it has a bit more of like a modern look than a traditional like Bigsby sort of solution, I think fits this guitar well. I don't think Dusenberg trims look the best on every type of guitar, but I think in this case, I think it works. Do you agree or do you disagree? All right, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, dislike, leave me rude, nasty comments. Support us on Patreon. Buy a shirt if you're naked and stay grounded. Bye, everybody.